are listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm ecstatic that you're listening. This episode of a One Pint Stand is proudly sponsored by Heavy Rotation Brewing in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. This small batch brewery kicks out a big variety of expertly crafted beers. Their menu has something for everyone, and their staff is truly welcoming. Check out Heavy Rotation Brewing. Before we get into it, I'm just going to let you know I am getting over a cold, so it sounds like I'm hitting puberty, and if, don't worry, I'm not, but if I was, this would be the third time, and each time gets worse and worse and worse, so bear with my voice. This episode was personally all about checking off a craft beer bucket list item. I went down to New Ulm, Minnesota to visit the second oldest family-owned brewery in the United States, Schell's Brewery. I was joined by the Schell's vice president, Kyle Marti, and I just had an absolute blast chatting with him. Kyle was gracious with his time and was happy to tell so many fantastic stories about the history of Schell's and how Schell's fits into the overall puzzle of Minnesota craft beer. So let's head down to New Ulm, Minnesota for my beer chat with Kyle Marti at Schell's Brewery. Cheers. Welcome to another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand. I'm your host, Dan Bobian. Today, I'm incredibly excited to be here in New Ulm, Minnesota at Schell's Brewery. This is iconic Minnesota craft beer history bucket list material. They've celebrated their 165th anniversary this year, and they are the second oldest family-owned brewery in the United States. I'm being joined on the show by Kyle Marti, the vice president here at Schell's. Kyle, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day.
Yeah, of course. Thank
this
you.
This is exciting. We are drinking Oktoberfest.
Yes.
And what a tasty beverage it is. I'm very familiar with this offering from Schell's. In the fall, late summer, it always finds its way into my fridge.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
This is one of those things at the state fair. It's like, go get a Schell's Oktoberfest.
Yep.
So before we get into the rich history and tradition of Schell's, let's do a little get to know you bit. You want to introduce yourself by giving us your name, your title, your favorite cartoon growing up, and the Schell's beer that's always in your fridge at home.
Sure. All right. So name, Kyle Marti. Official title. I always like to laugh and say I'm the designated whipping boy of the place because I'm unfortunately have my hands in a little bit of everything around here. And officially, I guess the vice president. And then I am the sales and marketing director here at the brewery. But if we're being honest, I've got great people that work underneath me that carry a lot of that load for me. So what was the other ones? Favorite cartoon growing up?
Favorite cartoon.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this morning. And I had like 4 channels growing up.
Same.
Yeah, it was like channel 2, 4, 5, and 12. And channel 4 and 12 were the same channel. And so you didn't get a whole lot of cartoons. I can remember when I was super young, it was Garfield and Friends.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And then as I got a little older and I started spending more time at my grandparents in town, it was like Nickelodeon. It was like Doug and Rugrats.
Okay.
And then I don't remember. Then I got probably into Power Rangers and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. I was a child of the 80s, so definitely it was like Scooby-Doo, Transformers, G.I. Joe.
Yep. See, we didn't have those on the channels I had. Like, Saturday morning you could get this like Garfield, and then it turned into like soap operas and things like that.
So it's kind of,
I did watch a lot of Young and the Restless as a child because after The Price is Right was done at 11, then it turned right into the Young and the Restless. And
that was the only positive thing about having the flu back in the day is you could stay and then, have a lot of questions for your parents at the dinner table. I saw this on TV today.
Very dramatic.
Kind of interesting. I love those slow, look into the camera before you go to the commercial about some sort of laxative. So, tell me about your career path into craft beer. Now, I got to tell you, I interviewed your brother yesterday. He gave me what a nice guy, first and foremost, and he had a lot of great things to say about you.
Okay.
But I'll ask you the same kind of question I asked him. Growing up in New Ulm, in the Marti family,
Sure.
the sixth generation of Shells. I'm sure that had some great perks, and that I'm sure that had like some pressure and different things like that. But talk to me about how you kind of wound up in the role you're in now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess coming into the craft beer business, for me, I was born into it, right? So there was never like this ever come to the moment of like, oh, well, I'm going to jump into the beer business. It was always kind of the path. Now my family has a deal where as kids, there was an understanding that if you wanted to come back to the brewery when you were older, you could come back and there was always a place for you.
Yeah.
But there was never any pressure to actually do that. And so they actually wanted us to go out there and work somewhere else and see what else is out there minus the brewery, because coming right back into it, and then you never really get a realistic sense of what the workplace is.
Sure.
So that was always the understanding that, hey, you can come in here. Now, as a kid, I worked here, don't get me wrong. Like, started at a very young age.
Some tales of keg washing.
Keg washing, yeah. It was my first job here, I believe I was 8 or 9, and it was post Heritage Fest, which was a big event here in New Ulm. And so I was working for my mother here, and I had to wash all the 200 or something like that umbrellas after Heritage Fest. Nice. And I apparently did a terrible job of it, and I was fired from the job that I probably wasn't getting paid for to begin. And if I was getting paid, it was probably $3 an hour or something like that. And so I was fired, and then I was informed that night that I would come back and finish the job tomorrow. So that's how I got into officially, I guess, into the beer business here. But it was in the form of sweeping, cleaning, things like that. And then as I got older, probably 10, 11, 12, I started working in the bottle house.
Yeah.
Hopefully no feds are listening to this interview.
They don't. They do a true crime podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I started working in the bottle house during the summertime and during winter break and things like that. And I was never old enough to run machines. So the only thing that I could really do was either stack cases after they came out or put cases on, because we were doing returnables back then.
Yep.
My job was also to stuff the gift shop trifold pamphlet into the 6-packs that we used to do way back in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
And so different world back then before, it's guarding and automation and things like that. And so that's how I started, working in the bottle house, things like that. As I got a little older, I started working in the sales department, kind of shadowing some of the sales guys up in the metro, things like that. So I can get a kind of sense of what that looks like. And then eventually came back and started working in the office administrative side of things, and that's kind of what led me to where I am now. That's always been my kind of path, is the numbers and kind of things like that, administrative side of it. So that's kind of how I came to be where I am now, working alongside the sales staff a lot, have a knack for that, and then just kind of listening to what they need whenever they go out to the market. Okay. And so that leads me into the marketing side. So
yeah. I just had lunch over at the Cottonwood place, Cottonwood Grill, and they somebody from Schell's was in there selling them a lot of beer.
Good. That's probably Adam, our route salesman.
Yep. Good. Yeah, they nobody goes thirsty over there.
Good. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I have to imagine, I mean, the Schell's brewery this year turned 165.
Correct.
That's
pretty awesome.
Pretty mind-blowing, pretty mind-boggling. People might assume that, like, okay, they need a sales team. Why?
Yeah.
They've been around.
Yeah.
Is it pretty easy to sell beer in this day and age, or is it like kind of a challenge?
I would say it's incredibly difficult to sell beer. I always joke, and it's a joke, but it's not, that we are too small to be big, and we're too big to be small. And so we're kind of sandwiched in the middle of, we're not big enough to compete still with your global, your ABIs and your Millers and things like that. And so there's pressure that comes with that in terms of pricing, of promotions, things like that, that we just will never be able to compete with. We can do what we can, but ultimately, if it's a price war, they're going to win every time.
Sure.
And then we're too big to be small because everyone loves to support the local little guy and things like that. And so we sometimes get this confused perception that we're this huge conglomerate. We're not.
Yeah.
and we're a small guy like everybody else. But when you kind of go against some of the smaller breweries in Minnesota, you don't get the same kind of benefit. So we're in this weird spot to where it's sometimes easy to sell beer, but sometimes it's not. And that consumer, as we kind of just talked about earlier before we even got on here, is a changing palate every day. It's the insatiable need for something new all the time.
Right.
And being the size that we are, sometimes we can adapt fast, and a lot of times we can't. Just the size of our brew house alone, the way that we order packaging, the way we do things, it makes it difficult to adapt really quickly to things. Like if you have just a tap room, you can throw in a 1-barrel brew and be on there in a couple of weeks. Whereas us, if ordering packaging, marketing, things like that, it takes months at a time to get that to fruition. So,
well, and I know that there are definitely iconic beers in your portfolio.
Sure.
Like we're drinking the Oktoberfest right now. And, one of the things a lot of people like to complain about is seasonal creep, which is basically, every year it seems like certain seasonals come out earlier and earlier. I think Oktoberfest is kind of an interesting beast in that regard because for some odd reason, the minute Oktoberfest season is over, nobody wants to touch it.
It's crazy. And if you're not in the beer business or pay that much, like people don't quite get it. But it's a real thing. Like come November 1st, nobody's looking for an Oktoberfest. Around New Ulm, there people still are. But come November 1st, man, that brand falls off hard.
Yeah.
And similar to like Labor Day summer beers just kind of fall off. And then everyone's looking for that Oktoberfest. But yeah, seasonal creep's a real thing. With Oktoberfest, the earliest I've ever seen it come out was like July 1st once. But that got some real kickback. It's kind of a self-regulating thing too at the same time.
It has to be a delicate dance because you have vociferous, like loyal patrons, the bread and butter. And I don't care what size brewery you are.
Yep.
That's your captive audience.
Yes.
And I think if there's enough pitchforks and torches, okay, maybe
we'll wait a little bit.
We'll wait a little bit. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yep.
I think that's kind of cool, whether you're a brewery that does 400 barrels a year or you're a brewery that does 40,000 barrels a year. I think if you're in touch with those fervent supporters of your brand who will tell their friends, bring people into the tap room, bring people on the tours, that's a demographic of the population that I think it's important to listen to, for better or for worse. Because they always probably have like unrealistic things that they want you to. Hey, how come you?
We'll go
haven't
downtown later and we'll hear all about all the things that I'm not doing right. Yep.
Right. And so, but there's a lot of I think, and you know better than I, but I think there's a lot of like importance in that and listening and running it through the filter of like, okay, here's the message. What is it? What are they really saying?
Right.
What are we reading the context of it? So,
no, I would say that's correct. And I would take it a step further that for us, and we try to listen to, we've got multiple layers of consumer, right?
Yeah.
And so the end consumer is always the guy that picks the pint glass up, right? But then for us, our first consumer is the distributor. And so for us, we've spent an exorbitant amount of time just trying to listen and gather feedback from them, because if they don't even buy into it right away, you're dead in the water because they're not even going to bring it in. And then the next layer is then the retailer. And then you get the real consumer, which is the end customer. But we are beholden to all sorts of layers of customers, even before the guy gets the pint glass in the hand. And everybody's looking for something different, right?
Yep.
That distributor is looking for, hey, they are looking for brands that pull the velocity.
Right.
Yep. And so they are looking for brands that pull, and they are looking for the tools to help them sell that in, right? And then ultimately it's our job to make sure that brand pulls at retail. So they're looking for a certain amount of profit and the tools to go. The retailer is looking for, hey, I'm looking for excitement, for hype, and I'm looking to make profit too. And then the customer is looking for cost, taste profile, a little bit of hype as well. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
everybody's looking for something different, and so you're trying to kind of make your campaigns and your marketing and your just image meet them all at the same time,
Yeah.
which is incredibly difficult. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the challenges with that, being that, Schell's is such a historic brand? I think sometimes there's a perception that, if a place has been around X number of years,
Yeah.
there's no way they could ever do something new and cool.
Right.
Obviously, all of what you just said goes into whether a beer works or not.
Yep.
And that starts with quality. It starts with process. It starts with understanding how to take the ingredients and turn them into something special.
Right.
How do you combat that maybe perception that, Schell's is the beer that my grandpa drank?
Sure. Yeah.
What's that like?
That's a real thing, right? So when I used to do more beer shows than I'm doing now, that was always the old timers that would come to the booth. Oh, this beer's shit, and I remember back in the day when it was bad, and yeah, I mean the 60s and 70s were not our finest hour, but that's how long like those reputations hang on.
Yep.
I mean, beer was going in flat top cans, metal can tastes like beer. It was not our finest time, and that, I mean, here we are talking about it 50, 60 years later, that people remember that. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but these guys remembered what the beer tasted like in the 60s. And so that's how important your reputation is. And so for us, we make sure that we're hiring the best people that we can, right? If myself or Ted are the smartest people in the room, then we're on the wrong way here. So, I mean, we've got great people at every step of the way. I've got a great brewer in Dave Berg, and he's bringing people up underneath him that are incredibly talented. We've got a great QC manager, because you talk about quality is your most important part. Chris in the lab, and he's running a team that we say no. I don't know if I can swear on this or not, but absolutely can. No shit leaves the shop, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're putting out a bad product, that's your reputation, and so good brewers dump bad beer, and there have been some hard decisions made around here where the right decision is to dump it.
Yeah.
The economic decision is to let
the
it
numbers
ride.
guy probably
to let it ride.
sitting there popping Tums like Tic Tacs.
An example of that would have been a couple years ago, our cave age, barrel age. Our steaming procedure wasn't right. We didn't get the right heat in the barrels, and I don't think we killed everything off or sanitized it. And we had an infection. We knew it before we put it in bottles. And it was to the tune of, I think, at least a third to half of the barrels. And I mean, that's, and so we got around the table and hey, this is what we've got. Do we think that it could get through the market before it starts showing any kind of signs of infection? Probably. Are there a few kegs that those guys that hang on to it for 2-3 years later and they want to have the, yeah, those exist, whether we like it or not, those exist. And so, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to dump it, because that is the right answer. Because people, if we're asking people to pay $14.99 for a 6-pack, it better be good. It better be worth that money, because we owe it to them, right? And so those are the hard decisions that are made around here in the quality sense. But in terms of like, taking it all the way back, how does an old brewery keep up with new things? Is you surround yourself with good people, right? And people that have different opinions and different ideas, and we all come together and we make sure that the vision of the brewery remains intact. And that we are then bringing in those ideas, and that we're putting stuff out there that the consumer knows us for, but then also isn't afraid to try, because they respect the things that we're doing, and that they trust that the products that we're putting out there are good. Right. And so, I mean, I always like to say we can brew whatever beer we want. We choose to brew lagers because that's what we do in German brewery, but I'll put up our beers against anybody. I mean, and if we don't make it, I would bet that I could tell Dave Berg I need something made here, and he can rip it out for me. I mean, and that's the key to it all, having great people. So Dave is the head brewer.
How long has he been with you?
Dave has been with us since, I think, 2005 or 2007. I think he's been here for 18 years.
It's quite a tenure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's not the oldest one here. Yeah.
Okay.
So Jeremy Kroll, who is our maintenance manager, has been here for 35 years.
Wow.
Kathy Rathman's been in the office. My grandmother hired her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And she came here at 16 years old.
Wow.
My grandmother went to New Ulm High School and said, "I need someone that's really good at accounting or that I can use in the office." And they gave her name, and she's been here since she's been 16.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're super lucky. We've got a great work office, or just staff in general. And and there's 10 plus years isn't unusual here to have people work here.
Yeah.
And we're super lucky that a lot of people have chosen to work here their whole life.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's quite rare, if you kind of pull back the magnifying glass, and look at other places, there's just seems to be like a lot of turnover.
Yep.
For a business, that has to be really, there have to be a ton of benefits to having somebody who's been here
Yep.
for such a long time. I'm guessing how many other brewers other than Dave are on staff?
So we've got Dave is the brewmaster, and then you've got a brewing cellaring crew of 5 more.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
That has to be so nice because, as you talked about having different perspectives and different people around, I do think it's like, every band needs a drummer, somebody to kind of keep the beat consistent.
Yep.
And that has to be so nice.
Yes.
You could be like, well, this guy's been around.
Yep.
He knows the deal.
Yep. And it's especially in a place like this where this is not you look outside and the way that the cellars look, and to move beer around this brewery is not as simple as oh no, it goes from point A to point B.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
People definitely probably get their steps in.
Right, yes. Especially the cellaring team. Yeah. They get 3 floors and up and down and all over the place. But yeah, so it's funny when we're in our production meetings and you ask Dave or Jeremy, like, all right, hey, so we got to move this beer here, and you'll see them kind of look up and to the right, and you can just see them, and you can just see them tracking by pipe how beer moves around here, and you don't get that unless you've been here.
Right.
Dave and Jeremy have both helped pretty much build this place, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of the expansion projects and all just the improvements, they've been a part of it, and so they've helped either place the equipment themselves or work with the contractors to do it, and so that's the kind of tribal knowledge that you build over decades.
Yeah.
That new people coming in benefit from, and just they'll forget more than a lot of people will ever know. But you don't get that without being here for 10 plus 20 years. So
what size brew house do you have?
Mm-hmm. So we have a 140 barrel brew house.
Wow.
Yep, and they can knock out at 150 when we're doing adjunct beers.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll brew all of our stuff at high gravity. On the craft side, a lot of times we like to kind of target that 100 barrel brew.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you're doing like premium and the adjunct beers, we'll try to knock out around 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how many barrels a year?
So I think we are the 22nd largest craft brewery in the country. And I think we were 132,000 barrels last year. Yeah.
Holy cats. That's a lot of Oktoberfest.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's your biggest? I know you've got Deer Brand.
Yep.
You've got Schell's Dark. You've got the Pilsner. You've got so many good iconic different styles.
Yep.
What's the biggest seller?
Grain Belt Premium is our largest driver here at the brewery. Yep. And then, believe it or not, this year is the first year it's ever happened. Our Premium Light actually surpassed Northeast.
Okay.
And that happened 2 months ago.
Wow.
To where Premium Light is now our number 2 brand here at the brewery.
Okay.
And that kind of signals a real shift in kind of that Grain Belt portfolio. Sure. Northeast was always the second driver behind Premium, and consumer changing and people coming back to lagers. I know we talk about that a little later, but so you're seeing that. Then it's Northeast.
Yeah.
And then you have Deer Brand that kind of comes in on the Schell side as our driver. And then, believe it or not, Oktoberfest might be our second or third largest brand behind Firebrick. Yeah.
Yeah. Firebrick is so good. And
Yep.
Bach is so, you start going down the list. What's, is there like a seasonal that you're like, I love this? I don't understand why more people aren't kind of gravitating towards it.
I mean, the beer we're drinking right now, Oktoberfest, yeah. And so we brew last year we brewed about 3,400 barrels of Oktoberfest in the 3 months that we make it. This year we're on track to brew about 3,500, maybe 3,600 of it. So a lot of beer comes out. A lot of Oktoberfest comes down the pipe through a couple months here. So again, hats off to the team for trying to maintain not only our normal portfolio, but then try to find tanks and space for all that kind of other stuff. So Bach is one that I think is a unique style that there's not a lot of them that I would think would get more pull. But I think, people want to know what's familiar to them, that's comfortable.
Yep.
Which I think is why our Snowstorm struggles a little bit too, with it changing every single year.
Yeah.
People love something different until we do our Snowstorm, and then they're always kind of a little skittish about it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I want to know, I mean, I think I spend a lot of time with other beer nerds, and we just, we'll get together, and we'll, find an obscure style, or hey, this brewery just put this on. You never see these, like a Baltic Border or something. Let's go try it. Let's talk about it. Things like the Snowstorm series are so fun because of what are they doing this year?
Right.
That's kind of a neat thing. And I struggle to kind of wrap my brain around why more people don't love that concept. Because I mean, obviously the bigger you are, I think you need to have that consistency for all the reasons that you've said so far, customer expectations and things like that. But there's also that one of the many reasons people gravitate towards craft beer, in my opinion, is that it is different and it can be a little nerdy.
Yep.
And, you can come out with something in because that usually releases in November, December, thereabouts. Okay. Something comes out then, it's kind of like a early Christmas present. What is it? What is it going to be this year?
Yep. And so with that, I think we've done a good enough job, and through the longevity of the brand, that I think most people understand that brand changes every year, right?
Yeah.
But there's still a high percentage of people that when we're selling in, they're like, oh, I love last year's, really looking forward to it, whatever. And so there's still a large percentage of people that don't know that.
Yeah.
And so again, I talk about that kind of multi-tiered customer, right?
Yep.
It drives me nuts that we can't grow that brand. We do about 800 to 900 barrels a year on it, and it stays pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Which is it's a pretty hard fall from an Oktoberfest that does 3,400 barrels.
Right.
You look at the number of tap lines we have, and I'm like, okay, how do we just capture a percentage of these? If you just have a percentage of it, that brand should be, higher than what it is. But then you kind of run into that whole consistency piece of, well, I don't know what it's going to be this year. And so as distributors get kind of leaner and leaner, they're worried about, kind of blowouts and things like that. And so they don't want to get stuck with something that they don't know. And it's getting harder and harder to get people to invest in a newer brand like that. So every year it's almost like you're launching. It's not a new brand, but it is every single year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've done a good enough job on it that people know that it's something that they can also trust at the same time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll put it on. Snowstorm, got it. I trust Oktoberfest, great brand. Snowstorm coming in on the tail of it, got it. And we can capture a lot of tap lines with that. But yeah, there is a little bit of that whole, you've got to sell it in every single year. Yeah.
I suppose that gets exhausting.
A little bit, but I mean, that's the business, right?
Yeah.
And so we're actually talking about that right now. We just did our order here for September. And so then now we'll start talking about Snowstorm now and tap line rollovers and things like that. And we're having that same conversation of all right, Snowstorm orders are coming next year or next month. We're looking to kind of build some barrelage. Well, we don't know what it's going to be. Well, we do know what it's going to be, but distributors don't know what it's going to be, and we're going to have to sell it in and things like that. And so it's the same story but different every year.
Yeah.
But it's nice because it does give us the ability to try something new.
Yep.
And that whole brand was born out of, or I should say our Firebrick was born out of that model, right? The Snowstorm model changes every year, and then we're hoping that one year that brand is what really knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
And that's how Firebrick started in 1996 or 1998.
Okay.
We had Vienna style lager as our Snowstorm.
Oh,
people
all right.
loved it.
Yeah.
And then we might have something here. Let's keep it full time, and that's how Schell's Firebrick was born.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I did not know that. Schell's Firebrick has been a favorite of mine. I think it's one of those beers that, for me, no matter what time of year it is, I can have it. And I'll enjoy it. Some people are like, well,
it's gotta be the fall,
more
right?
of a fall, wintry thing. I'm like, nope, it's whenever I'm in the mood for it. You know, when beer nerds like myself come in and, you know, maybe it's their first time here and they're so in awe of the place. What feelings do you get about that?
I mean, I love it, right? So that's, for us, we talk about how do you truly connect with a beer drinker, right? And so there's hundreds of breweries in Minnesota. There's thousands of breweries in the United States, and right, so you don't have to go far to get a great beer anymore.
Right.
Brewers are doing a great job making great beers now, and so you have to connect with a customer or consumer in a special way that really leaves a mark. And for us, that is the location, right? So you come in off of Broadway and you start coming down the drive, and it's this beautiful covered drive, and it's almost like you come a little bit back in time, right? You come in from the modern world, and then the road opens you up, and you're into this old historic brewery. You know, started in 1860. It's all brick, gardens. You got the peacocks, the beer hall, and things like that. And so that is a special thing that not a lot of breweries can offer, right? We got a 22-acre property that you can roam around and really experience and connect with the brand on different parts. If you love history, we've got it. We got the museum, we got the tours. You're hopefully here because you love beer. We got the beer hall. You can try that. You know, we've got a beer garden. You can be outside. We've got music. If you love the outdoors, you can be in the gardens. We've got the deer park, the peacocks, and it's family friendly. So we try to give something to everybody. If it's not just about the beer, we've got something for you here.
Yeah.
And again, it's a nice kind of refuge to kind of get away from the world. You kind of are in a whole different world here.
It does feel so secluded. And if people are listening who haven't been, it's not like you just it's not in town.
No.
Kind of, you know, there's not a big parking lot. You do have to drive up this very scenic kind of wooded area. And you see signs, and it does feel like you're being transported
a little bit
to someplace really special. And I think when I don't know, the first time I was here 2 years ago for Bachfest, I'd never been before. And, you know, you line up down there and you kind of walk slowly and there's that line. And I think the minute I saw the red brick, I kind of got chills and I'm like, wow, because I've seen that on the packaging. But it's one of those things that until you see something that you've heard about, that you've read about, that you've, dreamed about in person, it does kind of evoke a really cool response.
Right. And that's, I think, that at the end of the day, that's what makes hopefully us stand out from every other brewery. It's you can go to breweries, get great beer, and you can kind of experience that kind of beer hall tap room feel. You don't get this kind of experience anywhere else. And that's kind of our flag in the ground is if you want a truly historic, part of history, I think we're trademark number 11 in Minnesota. That's how old we've been.
That's crazy.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so, August Schell showed up here before Minnesota was a state. And so you get to see a truly historic location that has modified and adapted its way to survive in many different eras and continues to do so to this day. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a live show a couple months back with a couple Minnesota beer authors. Doug Hoverson wrote the book, The Land of Amber Waters. And the Schell's history is really fascinating to me about how during the Native uprising, because there were friendly relations with the Native Americans, this was spared. A lot of the city was burned.
Yep. Yeah. So the brewery itself would have been about 2 miles out of downtown. And so it was actually Teresa Schell that was friends with the Native American tribes, and they would actually come up and down the riverbank here, looking for food and hunting and things like that.
Sure.
And so when they would come by the brewery, they would stop up and they would trade and barter food and clothing and things like that. And so they were friends.
Okay.
And so when the war broke out, a majority of New Ulm was burned to the ground. And the Shells eventually ended up boarding the brewery up and fleeing town. And then when the war was over, they came back, and to their amazement, the brewery was left completely intact. And they do attribute that to the relationship they had with the local tribes. And actually, a even cooler part of our history is even after the war, it starts with the darker part. There was the largest mass execution that happens in United States history in Mankato after the war. 338 Native Americans were scheduled to be hung. Abraham Lincoln pardons all but 38 of them. And then after the execution, they released all these Native Americans to go home. Well, a lot of them had to go kind of through war-torn territory, and some were actually killed on the way home. The Shells, upon hearing this, used their supply lines, our beer wagons and such, to create an underground railroad, essentially, and helped shuttle a lot of these Native Americans home safely. And a lot of them actually survived the trip because of that friendship that was born.
I've never heard that before. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool part of our history.
Yeah, that's really awesome. There's so much history. What's your favorite, I'm sure, like, growing up, you've heard a bazillion stories. Sure. What's your favorite one? Like, 6 generations of people involved with this place.
Right.
I'm sure you write several books.
Yes,
I'm sure.
Yep. And some of the stories, they're so wild it's like you can't even make them up. But probably my favorite one. Well, there's 2 of them. There's you've got during George Marti's time, our 3rd president. He would go on his collection trips downtown. He would leave the mansion here at the brewery, and he would take his carriage downtown New Ulm, about 2 miles out of downtown. And he would probably stay too long. He'd have 1 or 17 beers, whatever it was. Right? And at the end of the night, he would stumble out of the bar, and he would fall into the carriage, and he would snap the reins. And then he'd probably fall asleep. Well, the horse, having done this repeatedly, knew the way to go home and drove itself and George all the way back to the house through the brewery here and back up in the drive back to the house where Emma would hear him come in, and she would come down and help him in the house. And so we claim that as Minnesota's first designated driver.
His name was Rusty.
Yeah. And so that's a good one. Al Marti would go on his collection trips downtown. He would start on the north end, and he would stop in at each bar, and he would come in and he would buy everybody around.
Oh, cool.
Talk to the bartender, and he'd collect the check and then kind of wave goodbye. And then he'd head out the door to the next bar down, But now everyone has done this every week because they realize what's happening. So while Al is walking out the front door, everyone runs out the back door down to the next bar to sit down in time for Al to walk in, buy everyone around, collect the check. Yeah. And so that's the kind of like community attachment, like he knows what's going on, but but that's kind of the spirit of the brewery here is like the town has been so good to us, right? From even the very beginning, right? Starting carving a brewery out of the hillside in the territory of Minnesota, to where it is now. We have been through some very lean times here at the brewery.
Yeah.
And it has been this town and the people in this town that have carried it a lot of times. And so that's the beauty of kind of small town Minnesota as well, is that when I go downtown, people will tell me what I'm doing well, and they're not afraid to tell me what I'm not doing well. But I would rather that be because then they care, right? They care about
and
what's
they view you as an
right.
approachable individual.
Right.
I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like, it's their brewery too, right? So people are proud of New Ulm. They're proud of the brewery. They want to see it succeed like everything else, and so they're invested in it as well. Whether they are like they drink the beer or not. I mean, New Ulm is part of Schell's. Schell's is part of New Ulm, and everybody wants to see that grow. So it's like that kind of community strength there is super cool to be a part of.
It's so special. It's just really. I kind of noticed it. I mean, I live in St. Paul. St. Paul is the less cool of the Twin Cities for people who don't know, but I don't know. I think I become just not jaded, but
since I've been here yesterday, like random people that I've just passed. Hey, good morning. Oh, hi, good morning. It's kind of, I'm like, that's a little different.
Minnesota,
and
yeah.
it's kind of, but like, what's the population of New Ulm?
It's been about 13,500.
Okay.
It's been kind of stagnant for many
Yeah.
years. Yeah. I can remember growing up as a kid, it was 13,000. It's still 13,000.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I was having lunch at the Cottonwood Golf Club, right, kind of next door as the crow flies, and I made the comment because I was sitting there at the bar and they had the bottle turned around, but I'm like, I can't help but notice you don't have any Black Frost, and they're like, oh, we do. It's just like, oh, I'm like, okay, yeah, keep that label facing out. And then I said, the guy was like, well, there was one guy down at the end of the bar, and they're like, what time's your tea time? He's like 2 p.m. He's like, you got here at 8:30.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, well, you got to hydrate. So he was drinking some Schell's Deer Brand Light.
Yep.
And what was kind of funny is I mentioned to one of the servers, I'm like, I would normally have beer with wings because it's sacrilegious not to, but I'm going over to Schell's to do a podcast. And I said, I came into town last night to do the distillery field day. And she's like, oh, I went to school with Jace.
Okay.
He's a nice guy. It's such a nice family.
Perfect.
It's got to be like, the pros and cons of being in a small town, even if you're just like, Joe Schmo, but being a Marty,
Sure.
that there's like everybody knows you.
Yes. Yep. It's nice because again, like we hope that we're all approachable, right? And so like, and again, the people wouldn't talk to us if they didn't actually care. And so
Right.
that's what I love most about it is that you get to meet a lot of people and you get to hear kind of their stories and their experiences with the brewery and then kind of how they share their appreciation of things that we do and what we're about and again offer opinions and thoughts on how we can be better, which never hurts, right? Because like you mentioned earlier, that's your end consumer, right?
Yeah.
Those are the people that we're aiming to please. And if we're doing the right thing, then I do get talked to. If I'm an asshole,
right? Then they're slashing your tires.
No one's talking to me at
then
all.
you go out to that wagon. There's no wheels left, and the horse is gone.
Exactly. Yeah. So everyone. I love New Ulm, and it's all the New Ulm drama or all the little town drama. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. Like that's all part of living in a small town. But I don't think I would trade that for being in a big city and kind of where you don't get to meet people on a personal level like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I got an empty glass here, which usually means it's time to take a break.
Yeah.
So when we come back, I want to talk about some of the amazing festivals that happen in and around Schell's Brewery. We're here. I'm excited. I'm trying to play it cool, but I'm very, very pumped to be here. We're sitting in the beer hall at Schell's Brewery, and I'm talking to Kyle Marti, the vice president of Schell's. We're going to go take a break. We'll be back with the second half in a few minutes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying a One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. Now, if you're also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow A One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Mastodon. I also started a TikTok account because I was tired of Charles calling me a boomer for not having one. I'd also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to your podcasts to help make it easier for other craft beer enthusiasts to find us. If you want to be a supporter of the podcast with some of the extra change you find in your couch cushions, I've got a Patreon. There are 3 different monthly levels of support, and they're priced at $1, $3, or $5 a month. Now, if you pledge at the $3 or $5 monthly level, you get some pretty cool perks. So go to patreon.com and search A One Pint Stand to check it out. We're up to 28 supporters, and I'm really excited about what that means for the show. If you like reading about craft beer, check out my written work on aonepintstand.com. I love to write, and that's where you can find all my written content that covers both the local craft beer happenings as well as my craft beer travels. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Before we head back to the show, I want to talk about our sponsor, Heavy Rotation Brewing. Josh brews incredibly tasty craft beers up at this gem of a brewery in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. His award-winning Farmer Frank's Cream Ale and English Dark Mild London Calling are on tap all the time. However, if you want to drink a style that is going to create a seismic shift in the beer connoisseur world, their tap list rotates through a heavy dose of amazing beers. From great lagers to hoppy ales, their tap list will blow your mind. You like chili? Do you like supporting a great cause? Well, then write this down in pen on your social calendar. On Saturday, October 25th, Heavy Rotation is teaming up with the Brooklyn Park Fire Foundation for a chili cook-off, meat raffle, and concert featuring Some Shitty Cover Band. Now, that's not just me being vague. That is the name of the band, Some Shitty Cover Band. They're very good. It's going to be a great day of fun, and all you need to do is bring yourself and a $5 donation for the Brooklyn Fire Foundation. Heavy Rotation will take care of the rest. So check out Heavy Rotation socials for exact times for the chili sampling, meat raffle, and concert.
How about a beer?
All right, we're back for the second half of our beer conversation here. This is a One Pint Stand, and we're down here in New Ulm, Minnesota at Schell's Brewery. And I'm being joined by Kyle Marti, the vice president of Schell's Brewery. Kyle, we've already packed in a lot in the first half of the interview, so the second half is going to be a lot of fun as well. Now we're drinking the
Lake Escape Kolsch.
Lake Escape Kolsch.
Our summer seasonal,
Yeah, this is really nice. Very crisp, very easy drinking. Got kind of a little, I like the kind of, it's like a little kind of like maybe, is it a citrus?
A little lemon
peel bite that's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Yesterday was, as the weather people say, hotter than balls.
Yeah.
So this is very, very good. Very good. So one of the things I want to talk about, I mean, this brewery's been around for 165 years. And in the local Minnesota craft beer scene, there are some big festivals that happen all over the state.
Yep.
But some of the most iconic ones happen in New Ulm. So you do an Oktoberfest.
Yep.
And a Bachfest.
Correct.
And I went to Bachfest for the first time 2 years ago. And it was unseasonably warm.
Yes.
It was like 70
hit a good
degrees.
one. Yeah, you hit a good one.
And luckily, people gave me a heads up. I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
But I came with a group. We did a bus. So Davin, who works at, he's currently working at Dual Citizen. He's worked at a bunch of different breweries. Always charters a bus. Mm-hmm. So I got my little Bach bus pin on my fanny pack. Love there. It. So we loaded up at Arbiter at like 7:45 in the morning. Got on the bus, dropped us off down to the bottom of the hill. We walk up. I'm like, just kind of really, the chills, the hairs on my neck standing up, walking in, and it's just so picturesque. And get a beer, go down the hill, have it poked, just in heaven.
Right.
And, then he's like, well, we should go walk down by the river and find the beer ferries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? The beer ferries?
So what?
Tell me more. I'm intrigued. And so I was with one of my friends, Cable, and he's like, oh, yeah, one of my friends is a beer ferry. I'll text him and get his location. So he's like, he's at the time was a beer tender at Insight. And so we just kept going to find the beer ferries, nice walk along the river. And it was just so fun.
Yep.
And then coming up, listening to the live music, ran into a couple other people who were here. And it was just such a fun day. Mm-hmm. Now, I've talked to some people who are who consider themselves Bachfest aficionados that say that wasn't a Bachfest because you didn't freeze your ass off.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
I was down to a T-shirt by the end of it. And but talk to me about some of these traditions, beer traditions that started at Schell's and have continued on and have really kind of taken on a life of their own.
Sure. Yep. And we can start with Bachfest.
Sure.
So Ted came up with Bachfest in, I believe, 1986. I believe was the first year he came up with it. And it started off as an idea just to get people out of the house, essentially.
Yeah.
And so we had our first Bachfest here. We sold tickets out of a van window, that you could get your ticket out of the van window. And it was in the bottle house. And 75 people came to the first one.
Okay.
And it was $5, all you could drink, grill your own brat.
Oh, fun. That's good. Yeah. After people have had 7 beers, just go over there.
Yeah, grill your own.
Here's an open flame and some beef.
Hold it on don't burn your fingers. Yeah. And then from there, it has now morphed into, we like to call it one of the premier winter festivals of the state and maybe even of the Midwest. But we get anywhere from 6,500 to 7,500 people here on the grounds. And whether it's rain or shine, it could be 70 degrees like you experienced, or the one year that sticks in everybody's mind, it was a high of -9.
That's right.
And you couldn't drink your beer fast enough and it would freeze.
That's what people,
And I have a picture of my first mug of the day and then a picture of my last mug of the day. And every beer I drank, the foam would freeze. And to the end, it was just this small little hole that you could drink out of, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
And, but we still had 4,500, 5,000 people show up. And I mean, so those are the ones that we always kind of joke that anytime you get above 30, it's when all the fair weather Bachfesters show up. But when you get below 30 and you start dipping down there, it gets a little wet. That's when the true ones come around.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also joke that you also can see the first-time Bachfesters show up too. Specifically, the ladies that show up, they'll come in like skinny jeans and heels, and you'll see them walk in. You got 45 minutes here before you're out of here. And so.
Luckily I had some people give me some advice.
Yes.
Like wear boots, wear waterproof, because it gets, especially with the temperature.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I watched a couple people go down. I'm like,
that
would have easily been me.
It turns into a weird version of Woodstock. Yeah,
that's right.
So
better beer though. Better beer.
Yeah. But no, so it's like, for those that aren't familiar with it, Bachfest, it's the first weekend in March, first full weekend in March. It's an all outdoor festival that we do here at the brewery. And we set it up to where we put out 6 Bachs of winter. And so we go we butt up against Flanders State Park. And so we put out these Bach wooden cutouts. And Ted writes these terrible clues. And no one knows actually what they mean besides Ted. And so we hand out the clues at 11 o'clock. And then you can go out into the woods and try to decipher these weird clues to try to find these Bach cutouts. And the legend has it, if you find all 6 Bachs of winter, it brings an early spring. So that's the manufactured holiday that we've made.
I like it.
It's great because you get a huge influx of people that can come to town, experience the brewery, and experience all the good things that New Ulm has to offer as well. So and you get to meet a ton of crazy people. You'll meet
a lot
people.
Of costumes.
That's become the shtick. I'm not sure where that ever happened, but the costume thing is a real thing. A lot of furs, a lot of horns. And people just have fun, and there's traditions inside of traditions, right? And there are people that come down to the brewery every year for it. They wear the same thing every year. Like there's people that show up with their individual costumes, and you can see them every year, and you know them, and you recognize them, and things like that. And it's a ton of fun, and it's. Again, it sucks in Minnesota in March. Like so everyone needs a reason to get out of the house, and so we give them a reason to come down here and forget about winter for 5 hours.
Well, one of the things that was interesting to me was, you do plastic cups, which makes sense, but then people as soon as mine was empty, like 5. Can I have that?
Yeah.
I'm like, sure. I don't.
What gives? Yeah.
I'm like, and then we walked up to get more beer. And I saw this person, I I don't know how many cups.
With the cup snake, yeah.
But like, I was like, what is happening here? Like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Explain that to the listener.
So for many, many years, again, outdoor festival, you had plastic cups. And so unfortunately, some of those cups get thrown on the ground. And for many, many years, like we had this issue where at the end of the day, there was just trash everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh man, So Ted came up with an idea. It's like, all right, well, let's have people collect the cups up. And so the deal is at the brewery, and we've incorporated this with all of our festivals now, is like if you come in with 50 cups, you get a free beer.
That's so
And so now
genius.
people just collect the cups up, whether they're garbage or not, and then turn them in. And then we've got a single source to put all the recycling in one place, and we can recycle all the cups.
That's so smart.
And so now at the end of the day, what used to take us hours to clean up, there's nothing on the grounds. It's completely clean. I mean, we have an issue now where we have to chase people out of the garbages because they dive in the garbage.
Oh, sure, yeah. You've created human raccoons.
Trash pandas.
Yeah, trash pandas. Get out of there. Get out of there.
Yeah.
I think and one other thing to note is that like this is just there's a river down there.
Yes.
So down the hill. So
Yep.
it's like you want to keep it like, I mean, this is nature.
Yep.
So we don't want to trash nature. So I think promoting people picking it up, what a great idea.
And it costs us.
Ted's such an innovator.
He's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me about, that's the kind of mid-winter lead into spring
Yep.
festival. And then there's Oktoberfest.
Yep.
I've never been to Oktoberfest.
We'll get you
It's
here
on
this
my
year.
list.
Yeah, we'll get you
it's
here
on
this
my
year.
list. That would be fun.
Yep.
Tell me about that, because that, from what I've gathered, that is more of a downtown.
It
type of a
was.
thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So New Ulm has always been known for their Oktoberfest for many, many years. And for a while, it was struggling a little bit.
Okay.
The demographics were changing. We were starting to see less and less people. And so we decided, hey, like we're gonna jump in here and we're gonna throw our own here and try to inject some life back into it. And so we started throwing one probably about 10 years ago now. Put up a big tent down below in the parking lot, and we try to model it as close as we can to the actual Oktoberfest in Munich, which we'll never do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the difference between ours is 5,500 people and Munich is 100,000 or whatever it is. Yeah,
It's just crazy.
15 tents and so we've got one. But so my family, we used to take incentive trips for our distributors over to Germany. So we've been to Oktoberfest over there. And so
fun.
Love the event itself. It's a whole ordeal, and it's just an experience that I wish everyone could experience. Obviously, not everyone can. And so we wanted to bring that experience back in whatever shape that we could. And so we brought what we could. So we put up a tent down in the parking lot. And the cool thing about in Munich, when you go to Oktoberfest, when you sit in the tents, it's not like in the United States where you can just order a beer standing there and things like that. So you actually have to be seated at a table. And then you've got your own server and things like that.
Okay.
And so we do a section of the tent where it's called the Stammtisch section, where you are assigned a server and you get the kind of Munich treatment. And so that server serves you all day, brings you out your beer in your glass mugs and food and everything to try to give as much of a realistic experience as we can. German-clad server, food, brats, the whole ordeal, music. And so we try to model it. We call it the Munich of the Midwest, to try to give people that experience. And every year we have about 32 or 34 of these tables. There's not many that turn over every year. There's people that got them right away and have had them the entire time. And because it's right around the stage, so it's a super unique experience.
Okay.
And there's like one or two that turn over every year that like a new group gets to come in. But but outside of that, there's the traditional music, and then you've got the beer and the food and things like that. And then we've kind of started to put more of a modern twist on it. We've got more of a DJ with kind of some more modern music if you're not into the traditional stuff. But again, it's October in Minnesota. It's gorgeous. And so being outside when the weather hits perfectly, it's just a great festival. So
it's nice to drink a malty beer when there's a little bit of a chill in the air.
Just sweater weather.
Yeah. Just like be a little cold. And that's a good reason to go get another beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Warm up a bit.
Have a brat.
Yeah, have a brat. And I mean, when you boil it down, you don't really need much for a good time.
Right.
You need some good food, something to drink. And
Minnesotans are generally good people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, and I don't know. There's something I guess I'd need to spend more time in small towns because there is just this kind of like understood, just, hey, say hi. Yeah. Look, I think these phones have really, got us out of that habit. But like, I was like shocked. I was like, do I know you? Like, oh, you just said hi to me. Well, that was cool. Yeah. Gave me my little, endorphin rush for the day. Yeah. Craft beer has changed over the years. Oh, one question about Oktoberfest. Is it always the same day or always the same weekend every year?
It'll always be the second full weekend in October. Yeah.
Okay.
Similar to like Bachfest is always the first full weekend in March. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So people should have that on their calendars. Bachfest and Oktoberfest. Craft beer has changed over the years, as all things do, and people's habits have changed. I remember one of my least favorite things in craft beer was when there was these years where like every brewery had like 3 hazy IPAs, 3 fruited sours, and 3 pastry stouts.
Sure.
And that was all at the cost of all the traditional, like the amber ale, the brown ale, the Pilsner, the Helles, everything like that. I feel like we've come out of that.
Yeah.
I won't say hellhole, but like whatever awkward time. Maybe it was people liked it. Some people liked it. I'm more of a craft beer for me is about variety,
right?
All the different things, and I love it when you can, drink a beer and it kind of tells a story.
Sure,
a historical callback to a different age, a different location in the world. Right now, as I've gone around last couple of years, I've noticed lager, lagers everywhere. That just has to be. Do you think like somewhere in the great beyond, all your forefathers are?
Did you ask Jason about this yesterday?
Rejoicing. Well, I asked Jason about a couple things, and he gave some good answers. I don't know if we really touched on this specifically.
Yeah. Because Jace was the champion when this happened. Yeah.
Okay.
So so I think the story with Jace is it wasn't that long ago, but years ago, when lagers were not necessarily in vogue like they are now. Like, we kind of got, I'd say looked down a little bit upon. Yeah,
sure.
Because we brewed lagers, right? IPAs were king, they're still huge. But if you brewed lagers, specifically American lagers, you were kind of a shit brewery, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember, I think there was an article that was written by I forget somebody, the Craft Brewers Association or somebody, and blasting essentially the breweries that made American lagers that they weren't craft breweries. That's what it was. Yep.
Oh, okay.
And Jace went to town on it, and he wrote a pretty scathing kind of response to it about, hey, like, say what you want, but like, craft lagers, like making a lager back in the day was, and even today is sometimes more expensive with adjuncts and stuff like that than making an all malt beer.
Yep.
But yeah, it was not, we weren't necessarily the kids with skateboards weren't talking to us, so we were kind of the uncool kids at the time. Yep. And now, things change. People come around, and lagers are back in vogue. On the craft scene, lagers have never been out of.
No.
In terms of macro beers and things like that, they've always been a huge driver. But consumers' profiles change, and they wanted to see something new, and so now craft brewers are starting to see that, hey, lagers are a real thing, and it's nice to see. I mean, obviously, no one's holding a grudge about that, but that is that kind of ebb and flow of that consumer, and they're in the lager trend right now. No different than they were in the hazy IPAs and then the pastry stouts, just like you mentioned. And so it's a wild ride.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the challenges, and I want to get your take on this because I know you are very much, you interact with so many different people here because of your job, and I think there's some people who would go into a craft brewery and they'd see an American light lager on tap for $7, and they'd be like, well, why the fuck would I pay $7 when I can go get a rack of hams for $15?
Right.
What sort of, how do you approach that? Is it education? Is it, because one of the things I think that craft beer needs to do better about is being transparent about cost. There's a Instagram account, Pints and Panels. She does really cool artwork. She does all sorts of like kind of cartoonish drawings, and she's so creative. She'll like pair like, she'll be like the baseball team, the perfect beer to go to a baseball game in that city, or she'll do food, or she'll do candy. And about a month ago, she came out with a graphic that was like a pint glass. It was different percentages of cost.
Sure.
Okay, so like where I think a lot of people think that if you have a tap room, you know, you're making a ton of profit. And while there's some truth to that, the creeping costs of raw materials, rent, labels, packaging, all that stuff adds up. And she put the percentage, and what was left over was like this small, not 90% number can be either reinvested or probably needs to be used to fix something that broke in the brew house.
Oh, yeah.
How do you, when somebody comes in and is like, well, geez, Louise, why would I... There's a Minnesotan.
Yeah.
You gotta
boy,
geez,
geez,
little cripes. How do you educate somebody? It's like, well, why would I pay this much for a pint of beer that sells at the liquor store where I get 18 of them for $14? Sure.
Yeah, I mean the beer industry is a very capital intensive industry, right? I mean there is no shortage of improvements that could always be done at the brewery. I mean, from machinery to efficiency to packaging to I mean people are expensive too. And so I mean when you're going to a beer hall like that or a tap room, you're paying $7, but you're also supporting the same guy or girl that's pouring you the beer.
Yep.
And you're paying for the experience, and you're paying for something that is likely made by hand.
Yeah.
Like it's not a huge machinery operation in small tap rooms like that. That's the owner putting in an 8-hour brew and kegging that himself and rolling it over to the cooler and then tapping it himself and probably pouring you the beer a lot of places.
Yep.
I mean, everyone probably understands that, but sometimes it's lost on it. Like you get a $7 pint, like you said, you can buy a rack for $15, but that's the difference between maybe a handcrafted beer and a mass manufactured beer. So, I mean, it's a capital intensive industry, and the margins when we talked about it earlier, you start getting into packaged beer, the margins get thin real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, and aluminum goes up 13%, and your cardboard's been going up, and fuel costs rise and fall at the speed that they do. I mean, you start talking tariffs, you start talking there's expenses get out of hand really quick. So it's tough to keep it. And then, to take it all the way back, I mean, we talk about how the brewery has to kind of compete against those larger brands.
Yep.
There's economies of scale that come with them. They can buy larger bulk packaging, bulk ingredients, and things like that. So in the pricing game, they can keep things lower.
Sure.
And so to bring it home for us, a lot of times on the Grain Belt franchise, we'll compete with Bud Miller Coors, right?
Yeah, right.
And so whether we like it or not, our brands are put side by side with them. And so
I was going to say same
cooler door,
area in the cooler
right
case.
next to the same cooler door, right? Yep. And so that consumer in their mind has a price point in mind.
Right.
And if you get outside of one price point, $1, 50 cents or $1, you're out of the game, right?
Yeah.
Because a flat of premium cans, $23.99. Bud Miller Coors is probably $22.99, $23.99 maybe. You start getting to if it's a $2 disparity, you're out of that game,
right?
Yeah, and so the margins are tight in this business, and the more kind of beer gets, I guess, compressed, the tighter those margins get and the harder that business is. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be a race to the bottom with the big guys, right? Your Bud Miller Coors, they can wait us out all day long, right? And if they want to keep pricing down, they can float that. They've got global kind of companies that can float that. Us or even the smaller guys, it's harder. I mean, when you're counting on that paycheck to clear, like, right? That's why they need that $7 pint.
Yeah.
And that's why they, that's the tough part, right?
Well, I think, when we're talking about, I think one of the things, new people, younger people coming into the legal drinking age, there's a lot of negative things that get said about the demographic of young people. And one of many positives, I think, is that they do think about that.
Yep.
They do think about where they're spending their money. And craft to me has always been about the independent company.
Yep.
Whether it's a family-owned thing or it's a group of people passionate about something have come together and pooled their resources to try to create something, and that they know going in is the probability of being successful 5 years down the road is not great.
Yep.
I think people need to come into these places and see. Like they need to walk around here. Yep. They need to come to Schell's. They need to, take a day, come down. It was an hour and a half from St. Paul. Easy drive, come see the place. And I think that changes something.
Right.
Because once you see, last night we did the field day at Black Frost. We drove out to the farm where they grow their grain. Yep. It's a family farm.
Yeah, the Giesecke farm.
We sat there, and I got to interact with them and see it. I mean, touch the ingredients. We tasted the ingredients.
Yeah.
There's a very powerful connection when you have that opportunity. So I think that's a thing that I think, I don't know, I think some places do a really good job of putting that narrative out there. And I think that is what is going to keep people from kind of like just trying to crunch the numbers. Because you got to get out of that headspace. Yeah. If you want an experience, craft beer is about experience. You come here, you're going to have a great time. Like you said, family friendly, nature, great beer, food, history. It's got everything. You could go to Disney World and spend thousands of dollars, or you could come down to New Ulm, have the same experience. And I think that's important. And I think people need to. That's one of the big reasons I do this podcast, is try to get the stories out there that, like, costs are going up, things are getting more expensive, but it's very important that you think about where you're putting your money.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think, this is 165 years and still going. I think there's a lot of power to that.
Yeah.
And still family owned. I think there's power to that too. Yeah. What are some things when you run into somebody, what are some real positive things that over the years you've heard about Schell's that have really stayed with you? I know as a teacher, like, there's a lot of days where it kind of seems like a thankless job.
Sure.
And all it takes is one compliment from one kid is like, "Hey, Mr. B, thanks for assigning this book. Yeah. This was really cool."
Yeah.
Like, that wipes away the 100 negative interactions I had in the previous month. What are some of those moments like for you?
Yeah. So for me, when I like to respond to all the kind of the inquiries or complaints, or even the sometimes the few appreciation emails that come in, right? And I like to respond to them individually, because I think that's important, that they get to hear from someone at the brewery and a lot of times I try to take that feedback and at least do something with it. The best ones are when someone comes to the brewery and has a positive interaction with a tour guide, a bartender. They've had a positive experience with our brands. We're never the main character, right, in anybody's story, right? We're always off to the side, but we're a part of it. Mm-hmm. And so when people share stories about, like, I just had one that came in the other day, a a guy came in from out of state, flew through MSP, and wanted to try our beers. And somehow he got connected with one of our salesmen, Scott, and they had a back and forth, and Scott helped him kind of like zone in where he could find our beers at the MSP at Stone Arch, right? And so he said he went to like 5 different bars, they didn't have it, and then this poor guy is dragging his wife through MSP Airport, and all got to MSP and got, I think, a pint of Schell's Light, and then took the time to say, hey, look, I shared with his experience traveling through MSP and the fact that he finally found this beer that he was so looking forward to. It was wonderful. But the fact that Scott took the time out of his day to make sure that he understood that, this is where he could find it, and make sure that he, and then he like sharing that experience that, hey, like, no one had to do that. Like, no one had to spend the time to do that. Like, but you did. You took the time because it was important to me, and I will probably never see you or have this beer again. But like, that moment in time was so special. All right. Like, it's moments like that people share that. Like, I get complaints all the time. People don't remember what Firebrick tastes like. It tastes different. Yeah, whatever. But it's those moments where people are deeply appreciative of just like taking a little extra time.
Yeah.
Like, we're all people here, right? And so, and again, we're never the main character for people's life, but we get to be a part of so many people's lives in special moments and things like that. And that's the coolest part about being like the stories that you hear. Hey, my father or my grandfather drank Schell's beer and he has this story, and I remember that story. Like, we're not the story. We're a part of the story. And that's a favorable thing that they get to look back. I went to Bachfest when I was 22, and I had a wild time. And like, that's the cool part about being in this business.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
It's a lot of human to human interactions, and I think that's like the experience part.
Yeah.
It's because like there's a lot of ways that like you were talking about trying to compete with the big guys, and you can't price wise. But where I think craft beer and a family owned company have a leg up is those interactions,
Personal connection. Yep.
And I think it's important to really understand that. I'm sure that is probably a culture here.
Yeah.
That is ingrained, going back generations, all the way to the first generation.
Yep.
How people in your family decided that this is how we are going to do this. This is important. These are the tenets of how we treat people.
Yep.
And it's come 165 years later. It's still going strong.
And I like to believe that that's why people stay, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that if you treat people with respect, with the dignity that they deserve, and you treat them like they're truly family, right? Like, that means something to people. Like, I mean, Jimmy just poured us a beer. You got Chris, who works our QC. We're talking about Chris. He's there having a beer right now. Like, those are real people, right? And you get to be a part of their lives, and we're all entwined together, and we're making this beautiful product that is beer that people get to have great experiences with. And then just like we're sharing this right now on this podcast. We could be eating cheese, but I mean, we're drinking beer, right? And that's it lends itself to such wonderful opportunities and discussions and opinions and viewpoints and things like that, that it's a cool industry to be a part of. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and telling the story of Schell's. I think that, if you're listening to this and you haven't been down here, you need to put that on your list for the next month. I don't care what you have going on. Come down to Schell's. If you want to come down for more of an event, the second weekend in October for Oktoberfest, and then the first weekend for Bachfest, or just first weekend in March, or just come down for a weekend. I'm assuming you can get on a tour.
Yep. So right now we're in our summer tour schedule. So we're running tours every day starting at 11 till about 4:30. And then in the past Labor Day, we'll go into our kind of winter tour season, which is just the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. And then if once a month we do this cool thing called an Into the Depths tour, where I actually give the tour myself.
Cool.
And we'll do the normal history tour. We'll go up and then we'll walk the plant. We'll actually walk the production floor. And then we end the tour actually down in the old historical tap room and in the beer caves, which were built in 1860. So
fun.
It's a kind of a once a month tour too. If
Okay.
you're looking for something maybe a little more.
Yeah.
Or if you just catch me walking by, I'll be the guy in the blue shirt with the name Kyle on the shirt. It's my favorite thing too, is to share this place with people. And so my favorite part is when I sometimes get a call up in my office and they say, hey, a tour guide can't make it today. Can you give the tour today? Yeah, sure. I love it. Yeah.
Great.
And so, yeah, but
That's awesome. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been super fun, super enjoyable. This has been an on-location episode of a One Pint Stand down here at Schell's Brewery in New Ulm. Cheers.
Cheers. Prost.
I really hope you enjoyed my chat with Kyle. I was really excited to just be down on the property. This is due in part to, aside from Bachfest, which during their big festivals, they don't really do tours and you can't really see the insides of any of the buildings. So aside from Bachfest a couple years ago, this was my first visit to Schell's, and the tour and the experience all made it so worth the wait. The tour that I got after we were done talking was absolutely splendiferous. Kyle spent so much time with me answering questions and showing me around. Our conversation is something that's going to rank near the top of beer conversations that I've had over the years. Actually, I kept catching myself kind of just listening. Not that I don't listen on a normal episode, but I was so wrapped up in his stories that I almost forgot I was hosting a podcast and had to keep asking questions. So I think that's a sign of a tremendous guest because they have so many great things to say and industry insights. So I'm not going to feel too bad about that. Now, I want to give a special thank you to Brad Ashton, Marcus Dodson, Chuck Dorsey, Vicky Epper, Daniel Fisher, Todd Fitzloff, Laura Fleischfresser, Matt Holton, Cable Lefto, Dave Long, Ben Michaels, Brent Newman, Bree Smith, Jesse Storms, Sarah Cry Valento, Cal Vandehoof, and Brian Wu for being Keg Standard level supporters of the One Pint Stand Patreon. You've all shown incredible generosity, and I'm so grateful for it. Cheers to you all. Now, Kyle said he would like to lead a similar tour for my Patreon supporters sometime in the next year. So if you've been on the fence about joining the Patreon, this might be the thing that maybe you want to consider joining the Patreon up on your priority list if that sounds like a fun craft beer experience for you. I think the stories alone make it worth it because he is just living history and he's got so many fun anecdotes and he's a great guy. So, if you've kind of been like, I want to join the Patreon, but I'm not sure, maybe if this might give you a reason to do so. So before signing off, I want to give a huge shout out again to our amazing sponsor for this episode, Heavy Rotation Brewing. They have a fantastic beer lineup, great weekly events, and a welcoming and friendly staff. Check them out on their socials at Heavy Rotation so you can stay on top of their dynamic plethora of beer releases and fun. They are an absolute Minnesota craft beer gem. With that, this has been another episode of a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
If we're doing the right thing, then I do get talked to. If I'm an asshole,
Right. Then they're slashing your tires.
No one's talking to me at all.
Then you go out to that wagon, there's no wheels left and the horse is gone.
Exactly, yeah. So